saying I didn't know the science behind it. The other day I was processing some shrimp. And I was like, I don't know if I should eat this, but, but I figure, you know, it's okay. I'm controlling it, so.
Well, I was just going to say with hemodialysis, you tend to have a higher protein need than before dialysis. So your protein needs go up significantly just because of the loss during the dialysis process. So if you want something that you can take with you, if you can find a recipe for some nice little protein type cookies or snacks that wouldn't have a ton of sugar in them, and you can make up, you know, 5 or 6 of them and then take those with you and use that as your afternoon snack. If you're making it, you're controlling how much salt and sugar is put in it, and that way it's a good healthy snack versus buying a protein bar at the store, which has all these other things that we don't necessarily know what all the components are that are being put into it. So anyway,
that's a great point.
Just to everybody out there also is that you know, just to let you know that I used to eat out all day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner was all going out. And after I got sick and I started cooking, you get used to it. After a while, it's more difficult to go out to eat because the foods are a little bit too rich in flavor, a little bit too rich in salt. But as you cook on your own, you actually start you start developing a taste, and things your taste buds will adjust. So it might be, you know, it might be pretty bad in the beginning, but after a while you get used to it, and you know, you just change your whole mindset on it.
Cooking is the key to health, that's for sure. You can control everything that goes in that meal that way. And start with what you know. Sorry, we'll start with what you know. If you just know how to scramble eggs and add some veggies, that's great. Do that. And if you steaming vegetables is easy, right, Mathea? And making sure that you roast things as well. Like that's a very simple cooking technique that you can master straight away, and then start just adding variety into the foods that you're roasting or boiling or steaming or blanching. And before you know it, you're going to be a little master chef.
I really appreciate it for this great conversation. We still have a few more questions coming up. So one of the questions regarding the diet. So very often for the hydration, we hear water. What are other good sources for the hydration for CKD patients to make sure they can meet CKD patients prior dialysis, when they just need to stay hydrated? And then for ESRD patients, when they're already on dialysis, how they can still stay hydrated enough, but also manage their fluid allowances on a daily basis.
So, Wilson, do you want to talk?
I was going to answer for patients, but go ahead and prior to
Okay, so I was just going to say that you may not want to hear this, but water is the best thing, especially, you know, filtered, purified water that doesn't have a lot of chemicals in it. But add lemon to that water, add lime, do some things that are, like I was talking about cucumber before. I love when I go to the spa because they slice cucumber and put it in the water and it has this really good flavor. But try those types of things. As far as anything like a soda, we always recommend clear sodas because they have less phosphorus in them. But think about like tea and coffee are typically okay. You just can't add a ton of sweeteners or sugars to those, because you really are trying to manage that amount of sugar that you're putting in your body. So another thing I like to do, especially whether they're on dialysis or not, is thinking about fluids in different states. So you have your liquids, but then you can freeze like ice cubes made of some sort of sweetened, like with the cucumber in it, and put that in your drink, and then it's over time going to release into the drink. Or for example, on dialysis, I like to use ice chips, you know, Jello, ice cream, all those things count as fluid when you're on dialysis. So you do have to be cautious of that. But you know, ice chips and more solid forms of things that are fluid tend to just give you that mouthfeel and satisfy you a little bit more than just drinking like a water, glass of water or glass of juice. So Wilson?
Yeah, well, if you're on dialysis, I'm on hemodialysis, so I'm restricted to, I believe it's a liter a day. Number one, best way, sweat it out. But number two, you know, uh, for me, I, this is my own technique, so it works for me. It might not work for everybody else. Is that days of dialysis, I'm pretty tired out. And so I'm resting that day, and I limit my fluids that day just for medication, maybe a little bit with meals, and it's very limited. I maybe drink half a bottle of water. I know that may or may not be good, because the next day that I'm not on dialysis, I try to train, and so that will allow me to be a little bit more liberal on my fluids for that day. So as I'm working out, I can drink. I could drink a little bit more, because if I'm drinking a lot during days of dialysis, the next day when I train, sometimes I can go over on fluids. I've always been a person who liked fluids. I like to hydrate, but unfortunately with dialysis, you're not able to do it as much. So it's just managing that way. And typically when I do that, where I keep it low on days of dialysis, the next day I can drink a lot. And 2 liters is a lot to drink in a day for me now. And so that's how I control it. I sandbag it to the next day.
Excellent. Thanks. So I have another question from Bob. A question actually particular to Jennifer. So Jennifer, you went recently through organ donation, and could you tell us what was the preparation process and recovery process? That is the first question. And then we have second question from Ben. There are more than 80% of dialysis patients experience back pain, and they say this is the main cause why they have low energy, and that prevents them exercising because they're concerned of injuries. So since you're a personal trainer, you have a lot of expertise in the subject matter. Could you share with us, with our patients, what are possible workouts or way to manage your back pain?
Jennifer? Sure, no problem. Yes, thank you. So yes, 3.5 months now, I am transplant. My mother was my recipient, and so we're 3.5 months out of transplant. Preparation wise, I'd have to say, we go through as a donor and even as a recipient for transplant, you go through an extensive preparation, exams, tests, blood work, urine analysis, and so forth. So that wasn't too much of a difference for my everyday life. And I wanted to maintain that so that I didn't, I don't know what, trick everything. So just kept going to doing what I do, maintain a good BMI, exercise, keep my cardiovascular healthy, feel strong. Going into surgery, and then coming out of surgery after donation, I felt okay, and recovery wasn't so bad. Just just kind of pain from surgery itself, but other than that, I think mentally you feel good that you donated something, and you feel kind of strange that you just donated your organ. And as my mother sits next to me in most of the days, to know that my kidney is right there is kind of a weird situation. But in all, I felt really good. What I would say to anybody going through that process, recipient or donor, is to just maintain a healthy lifestyle. And as we've been speaking of with eating whole foods and monitoring what you're eating, how you're eating, and so forth, that's really going to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Even if you're not ready now for transplantation, to receive a kidney, just to basically live a healthy lifestyle. As far as back pain is by far the #1 cause of, reasons why many people go to the doctors, is because they do experience back pain. Some is chronic, some are caused by various things, and some are just typical things that we're not doing to help ourselves out. And so with today's way that we live, we're constantly on technology, whether you're sitting at home at a computer, watching TV, on your phone, on your laptop, whatever it is, or if you work in an office. The way our posture is, we've graduated to this unacceptable way of posture. Our rounded shoulders, constantly looking down, our neck is tilted. So our bodies are starting to conform to this way that we live. And the way we can adjust that is to be more conscious of our posture. And if you're not working in the field outside, or if you're not driving in a car, or whatever there may be, and you're at home through your course of what you're going through, there's still things that you can do to prevent bad posture, if I may use that. And so what I do tell my clients, right off the bat, is that 2 things that are going to help you remember your posture. And so if a client is working at a desk, I tell them to put a little Post-it on the top of their computer screen, just the word posture. If you have a TV or something that you're on, whatever it is, things are going to help you. And that means shoulders go back. Keep your shoulders back, or better yet, if you think about your shoulder blades that are in your back, those big things, those trapezoids, if you want to imagine trying to get those shoulder blades in your back pocket of your jeans, that's what you want to try to do. And that's going to bring those shoulders back. It may cause a little tension at first, but after a while, if you could think of doing that when you walk, when you start to get gradual walking, that's going to help keep those shoulders back and posture and your neck in line with your spine. Because what we're doing is we're pushing our neck forward, taking it out of line of our spine. And that's what causes some of the back pain. The other thing is we're laying around too much. And so if you have the opportunity to stand and get up and do some stretching, if you have somebody at home, and if you're not as 100% stable with your balance at this point, and if somebody can help you, even sitting in the chair by putting your hands over your head and stretching to one side to the other. Stretch to the one side, hold for a couple seconds, and then come back to center. Release that tension, get your breath. If you're a little bit dizzy, please don't go forward. If you feel okay, go to the other side. If you can do this while standing up, that's great. Again, always seek professional help from a doctor if you're ready to do those things. But I think basically getting up and moving will help release some of that tension in the lower back, will prevent us from slouching and, creating bad posture, and just keeping awareness of our entire body when we're walking around and doing things, especially on our phone, computer, TV, so on and so forth. Those are just some of the tips right now, I think, that can help, maybe start decreasing that back pain. Hope that helped.
Yes, thank you so much. So we have the last question, and actually this question has been asked by a couple participants in our upcoming fitness challenge. There are a number of patients who are on dialysis, and they are been on dialysis for more than 5-7 years, and they already doing a good job managing their health, but sometimes it just really feels that you have to reinvent the wheel. What will be your suggestion when patients more than 5 years on dialysis, have a busy lifestyle, how they can reassess themselves and how they can do better, as well as keeping daily motivation?
Wow. Is that question to me, Jen, or to anybody?
Just a question by our participants. Maybe
great.
Could you suggest some of the things for ESRD patient who on dialysis more than 5-7 years on the nutrition, since it's a lot of disbalance.
This is probably Jen, something you can answer. You probably see a lot of the excuses all the time, not just pertaining to patients, but just people in general, right? To keep the motivation going after 5 or 6 years.
Absolutely, it's not easy. This is not easy. This is a mindset. And that's really what it comes from, because there's so many ways out there and tricks and trades, and everybody's looking for that magic pill, regardless if you have kidney disease or not. People want to say, I got to lose weight and 10 pounds by next week. And it's just not, is it possible? It is possible, but that is not the healthy way to do it. And for long-term success. And the way to have long-term success, whether or not you're going through kidney disease or not, is you have to change your mindset. And so when you get to that plateau, right, even us professionals, when we are exercising all the time and we're eating healthy, we all do hit our plateau. You sometimes have to take a step back, and you do have to reassess. And what worked for you 5 years ago may not work for you now, because now your body has changed. And much to Wilson's point earlier about when you start cooking your own food, and beforehand you had a certain acquire for taste, and then now you cook your own food and your taste buds are like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden now you try to eat out and you're like, I don't like that anymore. That's the same progression of trying to keep motivated with either physical activity or nutrition. Sometimes you do have to change it up. Sometimes you do have to take a little bit of a break to just jump back into it, reset the mind, reset your goals, and then just keep moving forward, because you will eventually get to where you want to go. And then when you hit that goal, you make another one and you go again.
Right. To Jen's point, this is cliche, and people probably hear it a lot. It's not really a diet. It's a lifestyle change. So
that's it. Yeah.
If you make it a lifestyle change, it's not going to be where, okay, thing's getting boring. What's the next thing? It's actually, if it's a lifestyle, this is how you live your life. And so, it's exactly what Jen's saying. You have to kind of know where you're going, know where your goals are, know where you're headed. You could plan for that however it is, and make it a lifestyle change. So that way, because diets are only long lasting. They only last, a month or 2 months, however long you have this diet for.